We've got officials with Mooresville Police Department giving an update on an officer who is facing some charges and has been arrested. Let's listen in.
Right is Captain Corey Ciccarelli, who is the officer's commanding officer. So while conducting an audit of its license plate reader, the LPR system, Mooresville Police Department discovered an MPD officer accessed the system for personal reasons. As a result of this information, a criminal investigation into the officer's actions was initiated and subsequently revealed the officer accessed the LPR system 31 times for personal use. The officer was also untruthful about the reasons for looking up the LPR data. On August 5th, 2026, Officer Elizabeth Snowman was charged with accessing computers and was taken to the Iredell County Jail, where she received a $5,000 secure bond. So FLOC and LPRs have been all over the news. This is frustrating and aggravating at the same time. But I know you're going to have questions, so we'll take your questions.
Chief, can you clarify if Mooresville has these branded cameras or if these were accessed from use in another county?
No, these are our cameras.
Okay, and this was, she was looking for activity in Mooresville town limits?
Yes, she was looking for, so let me tell you what she was looking for. So she accessed the computers, the LPR cameras, to find information and track her boyfriend's ex-wife. So I take it by your reaction, that's not good, right? So that's what the genesis of this was, yes.
Are there any discussions about any changes moving forward as far as implementing?
Yeah, so let me, thank you for that. So let me address that. So the way the system is set up now is the officers have to put in the reason for why they're using the flock cameras, like why are they tracking this vehicle. It's a standard drop-down list that flock has a number of crimes or investigations or whatever. What we found on hers was that of the 31 that she had done, I think 29 of them just said motor vehicle infraction. 2 of them are listed as burglary and robbery or something like that. And we also know that at least twice she accessed these cameras while she was off duty, which means she either sat in her cruiser in her parking lot and ran the plate again, or she took it in with her to her apartment and did it then. So, so moving forward, what we're doing on this is, in addition to what's in there, they're also going to have to attach a case number to this to give it a little more bite, to give it a little more. They're going to have to answer certain things, to put in another safeguard beyond what's already required by LPR, just so we don't, to say that we're not going to run into this problem. Listen, 6 months ago, I wouldn't have told you, I didn't even think we would be in this position. But it is what it is, right? And so what we want to do is, we have the safeguards that we thought were enough. Clearly they're not. So that's why we've added the extra safeguards that you just asked me about.
What was the red flag in this instance? Was it her accessing the cameras off duty? What kind of flag you guys were?
So let me just tell you this. And again, here we go, right? I don't want to get too much into that because I don't think we're done yet, quite frankly. So we're looking at other ones. They could pan out to be nothing, but there's certainly ones that we're taking a secondary look at, a deep look at. But this one, because of all the little, there's a custody battle in play here, there's boyfriend, girl, with all the stuff that was going on, it was clear that we needed to address this one right away, and that's why we did it. But we're in the process. We could be back here in a couple of days, to be quite honest with you. Hopefully not, but there's some that are going to beg a second look.
Are you expecting additional charges against her in this case?
We think we have all the charges we're going to have. we don't anticipate any more coming from this. I mean, we looked at some other avenues. Quite frankly, I'll be brutally honest, right? We looked if there was a stalking component because of the number of times. But it's under the laws in North Carolina. The victim has to be aware, she has to be in fear, things like that. That didn't rise to this level because she certainly didn't know about it. So, but we had those discussions about whether there was another charge, but there doesn't appear to be.
What was the period of time that these 31 searches were done?
So that one I'm not going to get into either, only because we have pending things. But you know, we're going to get into this a little bit, but it's almost when you and I talked about drones, right? And the concern about privacy and, you know, issues, and are the police going to be looking at us through my windows and stuff, right? And I get it. And I told you then, it would be my same answer now. You know, we can only politicize so much, and we can't think of everything. And we try, and we think we have good safety, but at the end of the day, it's free will. And so, you know, if there's anything I've learned in all the years I've been doing this, is you can't protect somebody from themselves. All I can say is the same thing I told you during the drone interview. You know, we have the drones, and we place our flight logs, and they can see, and they can read the case, and they can know why they're up. And I told you then, and it's the same for this, the analogy is the same. But if we find out somebody's using it for nefarious reasons, they're not going to be here anymore. And listen, I know we're going to take a hit publicly on this. I get it. I think what bothers me most about this is, you know, nobody's going to know who Elizabeth Snowman is 6 months from now. But what they're going to know, especially the people that believe that LPR should not be out there, is that this is another log on the fire for those guys to keep that flame going about why, and look at this, there's another cop abusing the system. That's what bothers me the most, that the people that use this stuff for personal gain, like she did, can't think past their nose on how it affects law enforcement. And we've had these discussions globally. As some of you know, I sit on a board with the International Chiefs of Police. We've talked about this issue nationwide about and how the number of good things flock cameras have done, LPRs have done, missing persons, finding missing kids. It's been a game changer for us, what we've been able to accomplish here. But it all goes up in smoke when you have cops like this violating the system. So listen, for the people that are going to say, this is a reason why we don't want them. I understand that, and that's the travesty in this whole thing. That's what irritates me the most, because these LPRs have literally been a game changer, especially for this community. And it's just very, very frustrating. It's very, very frustrating for the officers on the street, because there's always that constant, are we going to lose, because it's in the news every day now, right, about whether or not they're going to take these LPRs away. And this just adds to it.
When you said we could be back here, like, say, in a day or so, because of these, there are other cases, are they involving other members of the police department?
Yes. Yeah, thanks, because that was my reaction.
With this case, and then if there are, you know, other investigations going on like this, given what you just said, some people really seem to hate these things.
Sure.
Would there ever be like a tipping point where you would say, you know, maybe the negatives outweigh the positives?
Yeah, you know, I get it, right? And I appreciate the question. I think I would ask it too if I was standing over there. What I can tell you is that the good that these systems do, my own personal, and you can say I'm biased, but I've seen what these systems do when used correctly. I've seen the lives that they saved. I've seen the bad people that we've gotten that have come through this town that shouldn't be here, that were here for only to, you know, do whatever they're going to do and get out of here as quickly as you can. We solved an armed robbery that was being done across North Carolina a couple of years ago. These guys were robbing pharmacies, masked. They're going all over the state. Nobody had caught them yet. And they would take the plate off the car while they were doing these robberies, and a couple of people got shot in the eastern part of the state. But when they came down here, they made a mistake. Right before they get back on the highway, they put the plate back on the car, and we were able to track them through that. So, I mean, the benefits, I believe, outweigh the issues here. And it's an interesting dynamic, right? Because the privacy issue is, you don't have an expectation of privacy in the public, right? And people don't have an expectation of privacy in plates that really aren't owned by them or owned by the state anyway. But the question becomes, what's being done with that data? So that's the rub here, right? It's not so much, they talk about the privacy issue, but listen, there's cameras everywhere. You drive by Ring doorbell cameras every day of your life, right? They're picking up those images. The problem becomes, what do you do with, what happens with the data that's collected? Or in this case, what are cops doing that shouldn't be cops in the first place doing with this stuff? And I get it. And I don't have a good solution other than, you know, we try to do the right things, and when people don't, we take care of it. But it's a concerning, I think it's an issue that's going to keep going for a long time. Courts are going to weigh in on it. I think I think the decision is going to be on the side of what is done with the data. That's what we're going to see. It would be my guess down the road. If anything changes, it's going to be what is done with the data. And listen, I would be a proponent of that because we need the data when we need it. We may not need it. We don't need it 3 months later. So if you're checking somebody from 3 months ago or something, right, that's problematic. So.
Chief, is the State Bureau of Investigations looking into this at all? Are you calling them in to help at all?
No. And I'm not being, I don't want to take this the wrong way, but we don't need their help on this. This falls under us. If we didn't have the tools or the ability to do it, absolutely, I would call them in. I don't want to get a long-winded answer, but, this police department, we worked because we understood the growth. We understood where we would be. We understood 5-6 years ago where we would be at this point with the growth and everything that comes in. It just brings in a different element to the town, right? So we made it it very clear, and we worked very hard to bring in officers from literally, we're very fortunate. We have no openings, number one, but we have one now, maybe, if whatever happens with her. But we've been very fortunate in the people we've brought in here, and we've tried to bring in some of the best people we could find, literally from all over the country. And we've hired people from the SBI. They now work for us, so that we can do our own investigations. We can do what we have to do because we knew that this was coming with the growth. It just happens with growth. You're going to get more crimes and things like that. So we understood that. So this is something we've been preparing for. So. Yeah, so we don't need anybody to come in and do our investigations.
Just a quick follow-up on that. You said she may or may not still be employed. Is she?
Well, that decision is made by HR. That's not our decision, right? That's an HR function. That comes under them. We charge, and whatever we have to do, whatever HR is going to do is their business.
So she is still employed as of this point?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
On leave, paid leave, anything like that?
That hasn't even been determined yet because it's she was working today, so technically she's getting paid for today anyway, even though she may be spending most of that day in the jail. So that's an HR issue.
Just two quick logistical questions. How many block cameras does Mooresville have?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into that. But
what is the retention? How long are the plates held in the system?
I think we have the ability to go back 6 months to take a look, but more than that, I think we have to notify Flock, right? We get involved with Flock. I don't know what their retention schedule is, but it's not, but then there has to be reasons, and they have a whole protocol if we want to go beyond that for things. Because, a lot of these are done in investigations, and something may have happened 2 weeks ago with a vehicle on something, and then now we're 2 weeks into it, and something else happened again, and somebody says, hey, I think that's the same car that was here. Let's check, go back and look at the reports and see where and we connect the dots. So it's not, so there has to be a period of time there as an investigative tool to be able to go back. In other words, like to suggest that these things get wiped out and we can't view them after 48 hours. Geez, that would really limit what we're doing investigation-wise.
Are you willing to give some kind of estimate of how many, like more than 10?
What's that?
Number of cameras that you guys use around?
Oh, we have more than 10.
More than 10?
Mm-hmm.
Can you say how long you've been partnering with Flock for the cameras?
I believe, we've had flock since 2020, 2021, so 5 or 6 years, I would say.
Chief, how long have you, when was the officer hired? I'm so apologize if you already said that.
No, she was hired in January of '25.
Does the system automatically flag suspicious activity, or are you guys manually going back?
No, we have to manually go into this and see it. There's no mechanism at this point, and we can't put one in because it's their system, right? So there isn't a mechanism. So I'll give you an example. We have an early warning system for officers here that we have, in a system that we have, which tracks use of force issues, time, sick leave, accidents, things like that. Anything that we think could be problematic down the road that calls either behavioral issues or job issues, there's a list, and those will track, and we can track those. There is no system, the way Flock is set up, for similar, like to say, hey, this person has run the same car 10 times in the last 2 weeks, right? It doesn't give us that ability to do that. And because it's not our system, we can't integrate that into their system to be able to do that. That would have to be a conversation with Flock. We haven't had those yet. You know, Flock comes up here a lot because we're a big user of Flock. And so we've been talking about this, as those are discussions we probably should have down the road, and see what the capabilities are for them to do something like that, to make it easier to track, because now it really is a labor intensive to get to what we need. Yeah, so if we could put in a system, like you mentioned, some type of early warning system, make it a lot easier for everybody.
Chief, so 29 times she was on duty when she used it?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
Can you speak to how the department's feeling right now as one of your own officers misusing a system you feel is vital?
So what I can tell you is I don't really have an answer for that yet, because, you know, we haven't had a broad discussion, but I'm meeting with, it's her shift that's on today. It's her captain that's here. I'm going to go to the shift at the end of the shift and meet with this shift and the incoming shift at the same time tonight around 5:30 to have exactly that discussion and explain to them what's going on, and we're going to have an in-depth discussion about that. You know, I'll be able to judge, I guess, the temperature of the room when that happens. But I will tell you this, there's not going to be much of a conversation. I'm going to talk and they're going to listen. It's going to be that simple. So, yeah, it's not going to be much of a conversation.
Chief, two questions here. First, what is your message to your officers that may currently be watching this live and say, man, I did that?
Yeah, well.
Do they have a resource to come to your command staff? Hey, I did this, I'm admitting it, how can we move forward? And what's the next steps?
Yeah, if they want to come in and fall on the sword, that's fine. And then we'd have to have a real in-depth discussion about, we'd have to loop in the DA's office at that time about charges, and they may want to consult with attorneys before they have that conversation.
And that was leading into my next thing. Have you had any conversations with any of the FOP or the PBA, anything on any of these officers?
No. Mm-mm. We haven't been made aware of any. But I think to your point, Dan, right? I mean, I think we would be living with our heads in the sand if we thought that wouldn't be a possibility. Now, how big a possibility is it? Who knows? I think it's always a possibility. This may ferret out more and people may get scared, and well, we'll deal with that when it comes up.